March on.
Quarterfinal number 3. Ready, set, go!
2 players have booked their tickets to Los Angeles, and we'll be joined by 2 more who will be between number 2 and 7. We have Luker hailing from Canada, and we have Nalguidan playing from Latin America. It's going to be really cool to see which of these guys from the north or the south will be able to represent their regions, their country, and themselves in the last championship for the 2017 championship tour. My name is Frodan. I'm joined by TJ Sanders, and we're going to bring you guys the third quarterfinal. And it's really cool because we get to see Hunter make an appearance this series, and it's not banned, because a couple times we've seen Hunter on stream, it's been banned away.
Yeah, he's one of the last remaining players with Hunter in his lineup. There was a few that were in the running to make it into the top 8. But Nalguidan stands alone at the top with the deck. And man, he's a player with he may not be known to a lot of players. You know, part of it's because Latin America doesn't get the exposure. And part of it's just because he hasn't had that one breakout performance that he needs. He's been close. He's actually been to the top 8 once. Didn't quite make it. And he's qualified for every single playoffs slash preliminaries when we had the preliminary system in 2016. So definitely a force to be reckoned with. And Luker is kind of a newcomer, but he's already had some pretty good results. He joins the elite of French-Canadian players that have made it pretty far in HCT. You know, talk about Monsanto, talk about Sidonia. Purple kind of, he plays from there, but he's French and Canadian, but maybe not necessarily French-Canadian. But definitely both these players trying to represent for their countries and themselves, like you mentioned. So gonna get into it. Hunter up first versus Priest.
Yep, the Hunter has been killing it at this tournament. A few players prior to the Americas playoffs were tweeting about how they think Hunter is a sleeper deck for many tournaments these days if you ban Druid. Orange was a big proponent of it. He climbed very high. Of course, Asmodai was the one who kind of piloted to #1 and put a lot of publicity to it. However, he was kind of mixed on the deck. RDU was also saying that he thought Hunter was a pretty good pick as well, and has performed excellently, not just for Nalguidan, but also for Yatier, who's going to be going up against Amnesiac. So we have 2 players in the top 8 bringing Hunter, and specifically for our Argentinian Nalguidan, he's 7-1 with Hunter in this tournament.
But the only class that he's lost to with that 7-1 record is Priest.
It's a Priest, and it's an even matchup, I think, across the board. And but I think the even statistics are a little misleading. It often depends on whether or not the Hunter can actually present the threat or not. And the games, I feel like, tend to be one-sided, one way or the other.
Yeah, and Nalguidan's Hunter is pretty interesting. A lot of times players say that Hunter lives and dies by the 1-drop. But his 1-drop is all tech. He's got tracking, he's got Hungry Crabs and Blood Soul Corsair. He doesn't have Alley Cat. He doesn't have Jewel Macaw. He doesn't have anything that he, a lot of the time, wants to just play on the board and, you know, hope that snowballs him the game. And you can see some of the tech choices again for him. Bear Shark and Stitch Tracker, which is actually a card that a lot of players use to kind of target Murloc Paladin and Pirate Warrior. With Stitch Tracker, you're very likely to pull Hungry Crab or Galaka Crawler. So you can sort of play that on 3 and get one of those tribal targeting beasts in order to snowball a matchup against one of those 2 decks.
Yeah.
But against Luker, that's going to be hard because he doesn't have either Murloc Shaman or Murloc Paladin or Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, Nalguidan was looking for any other result outside of Huffer, as the Anno Companion here kind of whiffs. And the important thing, too, is can Nalguidan stick a minion on the board for the Houndmaster turn 4? Another card that we haven't talked about, you saw some of the new cards from Knights of the Frozen Throne on the right-hand side, but one of the big inclusions these days is Bittertide Hydra in Hunter. And a lot of people feel like Bittertide Hydra at first was a fairly aggressive card, and it really is. There's no way around that. But in a mid-range Hunter deck, it actually surprisingly puts a lot of punch to that very awkward turn 5 state for people who are playing with a Rhino, maybe a Nesting Rock. Some people put Stranglethorn Tiger, and I think Bittertide Hydra fits really well for pressuring a lot of the decks when they don't have an answer to this 8/8 on turn 5.
Yeah. And there it is again. The Hunter record for Nalguidan. I think Yatier's another player that you mentioned playing in the next round of the quarterfinals also has a reasonable record with it. So definitely surprising a lot of people.
Topo Pablo got very far in the prelim, or in the playoffs, excuse me. And he had Hunter in his lineup. It was banned on stream when we saw that ridiculous Archbishop Benedictus and Hemet Jungle Hunter combinations last night.
The game that will live in infamy. Oh man, this is getting kind of rough for Nalguidan. He hasn't been able. He's been holding on to Kindly Grandmother because of the fear of Potion to Madness. Almost every time that he's had opportunities to play it, it's either been weak on board or it gave Luker an opportunity to use Potion to Madness to take that 3-2.
Yep, and Luker's been very good. He's been on point, making sure to deny Nalguidan any kind of board opportunities. He Holy Smited just a simple 2-3 Galaka Crawler because he knew that he needed to try and deny Houndmaster value. And Hunter's kind of falling apart here right now. Although the Veritide Hydra still sticks on board, so we've seen some crazy powerful things happen with Veritide Hydra, and with cracking Razor Maw and Houndmaster to back it up.
He can push 20 potentially this turn.
Whew.
If he gets Wind Fury and gets the Houndmaster on it, but man, those are some pretty poor options. +1/+1 is the only one that really does anything on the board, but I mean, if Luker doesn't pick up Shadow Word Death, almost exactly Shadow Word Death, he's on a 3-turn clock.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have enough damage to Dragon Fire Potion this down anymore. Silence.
It takes off 3 damage from it. But
yeah, and helps him get some trades. Also heals him a little bit, so he can silence the Veritide Hydra, Shadow Word, Pain 3-2, and heal up a lot. I think that's a start. It's a start. It's not the answer, but it's a start.
Luker channeling his brain power.
Well, he's also got to worry about what's the follow-up here. Now Nalguidan doesn't have a turn 7 Bone Mare available to him. Bone Mare is not in the deck. And as we mentioned, a large reason why is because he has so many tech cards. He's got double Hungry Crab, double Galaka Crawlers, even double Deadly Shot, which has been in contention as well. People aren't sure if they want to play 1 or 2. I generally favor 1.
Yeah. But that tracking can still pick up Savannah Highmane. He only has just 1 copy of Savannah Highmane. It's a very bizarre Hunter deck, but it's obviously been doing some work. It's a different direction than I think a lot of people expected Hunter to go if it was played.
Yeah, absolutely. Luker gonna stay alive. How big is this Priest to Feast though? It's being able to heal for 6, take off 4 damage onto the board. This card is a nuisance. Nalguidan has a Deadly Shot lined up and primed. How does he want to play this turn?
Well, he can trade over, Deadly Shot the Lyra, push 8, and then he has 4 mana remaining to do stuff. So he might as well tracking because whatever he decides to split his mana, he can fit that in. Oh, another Crackling Razor Maw.
Yeah, but he can't play that into Deadly Shot. Actually, he can.
He can. He can play Kill Command also, or Eaglehorn Bow, and Eaglehorn Bow is the most damage on average over the course of 2 turns. Crackling Razor Maw can be, but in order to make it equal to Eaglehorn Bow, you need +3 attack or Wind Fury.
The bow allows him to keep the Razor Maw on board, so potentially have even higher damage output over 2 turns. If the Razor Maw can stick onto the board for a turn, it would make up for the damage loss with the bow and then some.
Yeah.
He's gonna go big. I like it. You realize you're kind of in a bad spot, drawing too many cards.
You can still get Wind Fury even if you attack first.
Yeah, fantastic sequencing here from Nalguidan. Very heads up. A lot of people would probably use the Razor Maw first, but in case he got stealth, he would need, or something that required sequencing afterwards. It's really important.
Yeah, he's basically said there that he would rather have the opportunity to stealth his Bittertide Hydra than get +3 attack. Now he got slightly punished for it, but it's not really a punish in that sense because he said he was willing to take that risk.
It depends. If that 3 damage is a difference maker for winning and losing right now, he'd be kicking himself. Looks like it's not. It's Huffer. Okay. If it's Huffer, it's like, oh man, I should have gotten that +3 damage. And now you're starting to see why people are putting Bittertide Hydras in. And that's why Orange, who's joining us for the Los Angeles Championship, saying, I put 2 ups in these Hunters because that card is insane with this deck. You get all the beast synergies, you get the fact that it hits a very powerful slot at turn 5. And with things like Stitch Tracker coming into play, you might be able to find some opportune usage. Speaking of opportune, that Shadow Word Death was extremely timely here for Luker.
But
that kept him in it.
Any damage pickup from Nalguidan is lethal. Now he does not have a kill command or an eagle horn profile. Picks up second kill command.
And there it is. Hunter able to get it. And that's going to be game 1 to our Argentinian player, Nalguidan. And Hunter is now 8-1. Wow. And I mean, I kind of said that usually the games tend to snowball out of control, and I usually talk about that because of cards like Bear Shark, for example. Bear Shark is so good against Priest.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, like, I've had laughable games where I had a Houndmaster hit a Bear Shark, their only answer is Dragonfire Potion, or like the Anduin, but they're usually dead by then.
Just a good card, Dan. It's just a really good card.
Yes, and I'm really glad that you're here, not Kibler here, to rub it in my face, because for the very beginning of the expansion, for about 2 weeks, Kibler would not shut up about Bear Shark and just keep talking about how it's just the best card, it's the greatest card, it's the most amazing card. And now, even though it didn't showcase YO Strong there, it was still a very effective deck.
It's not that good against Fire War Axe, but it's more even footing in a couple days.
We got plenty more Hearthstone action to go. We'll find out what happens in game number 2. We'll be right back, guys.
Don't stray too far away from the fire, my friends. There's more tales to tell. This is the America Summer Playoffs!
Welcome back, everybody, to the America's Summer Playoffs. We are currently in the middle of a series as Nalguidan leads 1-0. This is elimination stage. No more losses, no more room for error. Win or go home. Nalguidan was able to win with Hunter in game 1 over the Priest, and that's kind of a big deal here because I'm looking at some of these matchup spreads on our grid that we usually do before it, and that was a matchup that I feel like the Priest needed to win, because either that, now you have to play like the Mirror for your best chance, or you have to play against Pirate Warrior. Pirate Warrior is really scary if you're the Priest, so that could be a problem later on. Now we're going to go to Shaman versus Priest, and this is a matchup that's also very hard for Luker, so I'm starting to sweat for him a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of the matchups I think that might be the worst that he could have gotten going into game number 2. And the Token Shaman, the Evolved Shaman, has struggled. Not only this week, but in the past 2 playoffs, it boasts one of the lowest win rates out of any deck in the field. And there's still players that are having success with it, notably Pavel, who had his perfect run through the Europe playoffs. But other than that, it's been struggling. And this is a absolutely standard list from Luker. And most players are running the exact same list card for card. The single copy of Serenade Chain Gang, and then 2 ofs all the way up, with the exception of Patches and Thrall and Aya being the legendaries. But definitely an absolutely standard list. And the one reason why Priest is so strong is because they just have so many ways to continuously remove boards against the Shaman with Shadow Word Horror, Spirit Lash, Dragonfire Potion. They can spot remove with Shadow Word Pain, and then they have Shadow Reaper Anduin, if they can get it in time, to deal with those big boards Doppelgangster Evolve presents.
It's a tough matchup, like you said. One of the most lopsided matchups in the Shaman spread, as it clocks in about 65-35, and that's just according to ladder data. Now Guidan will have access to a lot of AoE clears, like you mentioned. And despite all that, though, you kind of brought up Pavel and some other players like Tom60229. They win this matchup a lot from the side that they play. They win the Priest versus Shaman. They win the Shaman versus Priest. Kind of blows my mind a little bit, and I think it's because and this might be a statement that might sound silly, but I think Evolved Shaman is one of the harder decks in the meta right now.
It is. It's very tough to. Resource management is a big one.
Yeah.
When you need to go all in on the board and when you need to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, people tend to oversimplify the deck and just say, well, you just get a good evolve. And then, yeah, a lot of times that can win you the game, but your resource management is really key. Boy, does Luker look really stressed.
It's like, no Shadow Word Horror, please no Shadow Word Horror.
He's extremely stressed by the threat of what the Priest can do at this point. And now Nalguidan has plenty of opportunities to clear, not just this turn, but as soon as he hits turn 6 onwards, it's going to be big. And the big defining thing is, even if Luker does get a big Doppelgangster Evolve, this average stat line of a 6-mana minion happens to line up very well with Dragonfire Potion, because the average 6-mana minion is a 5/5.
Well, Spirit Lash is going to be able to clean up this board pretty nicely.
Ooh, man, Luger's drawn really clunky. Double Bloodlust, double Doppelgangster. It could all be shaped up with maybe an Evolve or two, but Nalguidan is going to clear most of this off, so wiping the threat of Bloodlust is going to be very nice for our Argentinian player.
So pretty big opponents for Nalguidan in this road to get to the top 8. Playing against Racy, PNC. Your pick on the board, and Quonet, who we just saw at the Spring Championship. So,
and Ike, who made top 8. So very nice list of players there. Going 5-2, and hopefully for his sake, not going to repeat another defeat here. As losing to Ike and losing to Luker, fall short would be devastating.
But it's looking okay for him right now. He does have Dragonfire Potion to play in a pinch if he needs to clear that wide board, as like we talked about. I think the onus on Luker to really, make some headway on building a big board, or, do you hold on to Doppelgangster here to try and go for Evolve? Do you play one and play in a Dragonfire Potion or potentially Shadow Door? I think
it's a tough decision here.
Yeah.
A lot of people would think to try to play it slow because they want to save Doppelgangster for Evolve, but you have 2 Bloodlust in the hand. Play to your hand. If you're able to get even just 1 Bloodlust off or 12 damage as opposed to, the 18 or 21 game-winning ones, you might need to. You might need to get there somehow. And then on Nalguidan's side, how seriously do I take it? Do I just Holy Smite, take it easy, start healing? Maybe do I Shadow Word Pain the 2/2, or do I save it for another Flame Tongue Totem perhaps?
Wow, he is
taking it very
really respecting it.
Yeah. I was thinking, how seriously does he take it? He goes all the way.
Yeah. And, I would have think, just play Loot Hoarder there. Cycle another card, but this does 2 things. If Doppelgangster Evolve comes out next turn, he gets 1 less 6-drop. And 2, it makes it so that he can maybe get another card from Acolyte, or not Acolyte of Pain, Northshire Cleric the following turn because he protects it on board.
It's true. Card draw resource tends to be a big defining factor in whether or not you can win or lose. And oh man, that Cleric was still alive. Being able to draw off of the Healing Totem. Actually, it wouldn't have been the case because of Flame Tongue Totem, but it's just one of those really subtle things. Do you like the use of Devolve there from Luker?
It prevents the card draw, and that Nowish Defender was honestly just a totem kill at the very least. Okay. It was just trading over pretty much everything that he could do in the next couple turns, and denying draw is a huge thing against Priest because it is a one-of deck. In order for him to find his resources, he needs to draw a lot of cards.
So you think using the Flame Tongue there would have been pretty poor as a trade onto the
Northshire Cleric?
Northshire Cleric?
It's an option. He did play Evolve pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about Flame Tongue Totem is that by setting up a bigger board, Bloodlust and Flame Tongue Totem is a way to really surprise your opponent. A lot of times you think about Bloodlust and you think, well, does he have Bloodlust Jade Claws or Bloodlust Flame Tongue, or in the late stages of the game, Bloodlust Jade Lightning? And you start kind of reasoning yourself, it's not, I can't put him on that range, but when you have that flexibility for burst, it's really good. Not even just for killing your opponent, but also for the trades. They Bloodlust plus Flame Tongue Totem, and all of a sudden you're doing, 6 damage for a minion.
Yeah.
Sliding it all over the place.
This is interesting. Nalguidan's pointing this at the Healing Totem, which leads me to believe he's going to play Prophet Felon, because otherwise he would have drawn a card first from the Novice Engineer.
Right.
He's just getting it on the board. Now, if Luker were to go for a big board push here, Nalguidan would have to clear off his own board, because even though Dragonfire Potion would be able to reach his opponent's minions better because it'd have extra damage, it would also kill off his own Prophet Vellum because it'd be 10 at that stage. So I think Nalguidan had the read that Luker's hand was lots of situational cards, and so he wanted to get a big minion on the board while he had the mana to spare, while he thinks Luker's hand is bad. So that way he can try and piece together some things with card draw in the following turns when Luker's hand could be a little bit better.
There's been some really weak plays. He played like Firefly and Flame Elemental Hero Power last turn, and he's been avoiding the left side of his hand. I feel like you can definitely put him on that range. He either has Evolves with, well, actually, you probably would have saved Evolve with Doppelgangster. He played a flat-out Doppelgangster on the board. You absolutely could put him on Bloodlust at this point. Can you put him on double Bloodlust even? Maybe.
Yeah, and Nalguidan's got to be happy. Trade off his whole board. And from his perspective right now, isolated a Flame Tongue Totem. And even Saturday Night Chain Gang's not going to really do that much. He's going to be able to trade over one of them and still be in no threat of dying, and picks up Cabal Shadow Priest.
That's nasty.
So he could steal either Flame Tongue Totem or one of these. I think Flame Tongue Totem's the best just because he can run over and just be left with a 2-3 on board.
He keeps his 3-4 alive.
Yeah.
And, you know, Flame Tongue Totem is a card that gives Priest so many fits, at least prior to this metagame. It was insanely effective against Priest. One of the cards that you auto-kept against the class as Shaman. And now Flame Tongue Totem works for the other side. Nalguidan is so far ahead, he can take it slow. Normally you worry about extending onto the board a little bit. Or you're worried about tempo, so you're trying to extend onto the board. But in this case, he can just take it easy now. Most of the threat has been dealt with.
Ooh.
However, that is an evolve.
That's a 5-drop and 3 6-drops. You can also get a 2-drop if he
hero powers.
If
and
he
I think
hero
you go
powers.
for it.
Yeah, at this point you have to take the risk. Doomsayer's a very low chance.
It's below 1%. Or it's slightly above 1%.
Slightly above 1%, but below 2%.
Double Illidan Storm Rage. The Psychotron is huge, but the Dragonfire Potions is going to be too much here.
Yeah.
That's a full clear. We're talking about how the average health stat line for 6-mana minions is 5, and that perfectly lines up. Lucre praying, hoping, wishing that Nalguidan does not have the Dragonfire Potion.
Or Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Or Shadow Reaper Anduin, but he has it all.
Yeah. And this will probably spell the end for Lucre because with double Bloodlust in hand and no Doppelgangsters left, he's got almost no gas.
It's just not working out. Maelstrom Portal is really nothing here. I'm trying to think of that 1-mana minion needs to draw a card somehow.
There's 2 big tools. Kazakus and Raz of the Chained.
Yeah, this is going to be lights out. I think Nalguidan's just going to go ahead and start slowly recapturing the board. It almost doesn't matter what potion he takes off the Kazakus. 5 seems to be the sweet spot. He could take 10 if he wants. Lucre unhappy, to say the least, as Nalguidan also picks up Fellbloom. That's another good follow-up. Both Doppelgangster is used, Saturday Night Chain Gang is used, so even the threat of Thrall the Deathseer has been severely mitigated. What can you even do if you're Lucre at this point? Shaman struggles continue.
Yeah, and that is quite nearly the juice. Summon a 5/5 demon, deal 4 damage to all minions. It's the board swing that you need. It's basically an emergency card that he can play if Lucre somehow manages to find a board. But I just don't see it happening. Ah, well.
Sorry, I didn't expect that to happen. Yeah, see, Lucre, he tried not to, he was trying to, focus, but he couldn't help but laugh too, because the situation was slightly humorous, but in a very painful way, because it was, that turn was pitiful. 10 mana, you hero power, you summon a 1/1 Lifesteal Murloc. Congrats.
I don't even know.
This is merciless. Now just
Shadow Word Horror
put him out of his misery.
Lucre, to be honest, looks like he's pouting.
Yeah, he's really trying to make sure he doesn't throw it, and I don't blame him. We've seen some questionable lines for today on broadcast, TJ, which players have thrown 100% guaranteed 1 games. So you might as well do your due diligence, take your time. There's no rush. You have 75 seconds to turn. Just use it.
Doesn't need to heal his face because he's in no danger of dying. Lucre's range right now is 14 points of damage. Has he summoned patches yet? I believe he has, yeah. He summoned it on turn 1, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm trying to think if Lucre has the Bloodlust to get out of this position because he's just going to lose the board. The problem with Bloodlust is you need a board to use it, and from this point on, as long as a 5/5's on board, he's never going to dominate the board. That is a concede, and now Nalguidan is 1 game away from going to the Summer Championships.
And it's Pirate Warrior. Now that may seem like it's a pretty good deck, but we've seen Pirate Warrior struggle, and Lucre does have nearly the same lineup as Purple, but with one deck interchange, and that's the Token Shaman.
Yes.
I believe. But his Token Shaman traditionally does pretty well against Pirate Warrior. He's got Galaka Crawler plus Doomsayers in his Warlock deck, and he's got the Priest, which also has Galaka Crawler. So we've seen a lot of reverse sweeps against Pirate Warrior throughout the weekend and throughout the past couple weekends, actually. And I don't know, it's going to struggle. It's not as targeted at Pirate Warrior as, say, Purple's lineup was.
Yeah, I'm looking for any of those tech cards that would help Lucre, but if he's targeting the Pirate Warrior, we've seen it work out for fellow Canadian Purple. In fact, I think Lucre is playing in the same exact seat Purple was just moments ago when he was able to qualify for the Summer Championship, and they're really cheering for each other. As a matter of fact, as well, Lucre even played Purple.
He did.
in the Swiss portion where he lost to him.
Yeah.
And that was his only defeat in the playoffs. Coming up next, by the way, we have the last quarterfinal. We have Young Savage Amnesiac going up against Yay Tears, who is also another Hunter player for this tournament. So we got a couple of interesting storylines. And of course, after the quarterfinals, we will play out the semis and the finals to crown our final summer champion.
Yeah. That matchup I'm looking forward to. Yay Tears, another Hunter player, also finished rank 2 on the Legend ladder last month. So definitely a player to keep your eye on. But he's got a tough road ahead of him. Amnesiac he's been showing up all year long. He's got a top 8 in the books already from winter season, and you know, speaking to him, he says he doesn't want to let that happen again. He's going to be fully focused. But we still got some game left to play in this one with Nalguidan versus Lucre, and mediocre hands for both players, I'd say.
Yeah, and mediocre hands tend to make it good for Shaman because you want Pirates to start off pretty mediocre. Yeah. But Nalguidan has at least a pretty good set of first turn or two. Yeah,
he's got Nazav's first mate is the best card. Yeah, that's the card that you're always keeping. That's the quite obviously the best card. And Lucre does have Maelstrom Portal to follow up, so both players with the good early turn ones. But it's about the follow up. And Nalguidan draws a second Arcanite Reaper, and that card is not that great against Token Shaman because there's so many things that can just block it. Serenite Chain Gang, Taunt Totem can sometimes absorb 5, 6, 7 damage depending on how much that Arcanite Reaper is upgraded, and it can get pretty brutal sometimes. And Lucre's got Devolve to deal with wide pirate board states. Even though it's a mediocre hand to play onto the board, he's got tools in the long run. Picks up a good turn 2 play with Prowlfin Totem.
The relief on Lucre's face to see that he has drawn a turn 2 play that's not Totem Pass speaks volumes about the amount of stress and the amount of anxiety going through this player's mind. He's put so much work and effort to try to get to this point. Now Guidan's not really breaking a sweat too much, realizing this is a bad matchup, realizing that he's also up 2-0, and he has 3 chances with Pirate Warrior to get the win. Lucre finds the Bloodsail Courser. Now he can pull out patches, but the thing is, the Bloodsail Courser has double value. Not only pulling out patches and getting board control, but also eliminating weapon charges. Is it worth holding on to?
I think that's the tough question.
You got to think about your opponent's turn. On turn 2, he hero power passed. On turn 3, he played Sousy Deckhand. He has to be holding heavier cards. Arcanite Reaper is a possibility, a strong possibility of being one of those heavier cards. He goes for it anyways, going for that board control. Or sorry, he hasn't played it yet.
All right.
Another thing to consider too, by the way, is going for earlier evolves. I think the Serenite Chain Gang there probably makes Lucre's play a lot easier for turn 4, but without it, I've seen some people go for very fast evolves. Most notably, like Kalento did it very often when he was playing this deck. And when I first saw it, like even just on a couple of 1/1 tokens to just get board control, it really showed you how important it is for Shaman to get it. And sometimes he won because of those small evolves.
Yeah, that's true. Ooh. So he's got sort of the 2 cards that you want to couple with Evolve, as well as Evolve.
That's 2 turns away. So much can happen by the time that those 2 turns happen. You know that the Pirate Warrior is coming up on heavy turns. You saw that Frothing Berserker was played from the right. You know your opponent skipped turn 2 and basically turn 3. Luker's bracing himself for the storm. Boy, is it going to come heavy. We have Bittertide Hydra or Arcanite Reaper available this turn. Also, the Quarterfinal Elite was strong, but it's a little bit of a weaker play considering it's off curve. Bittertide Hydra is very susceptible to a devolve. It makes the... It gets rid of your Frothing and your Bittertide simultaneously.
Best case scenario goes down to a Flame Wreath Faceless.
4 mana 7/7?
Yeah. With no downside, Dan.
That's right. You don't even have to pay for the overload.
It's like a better Eerie statue.
Is that the first 4 mana 7/7? No, there was a couple more. There's a couple of 4s. There's like at least one more. Yeah. I can't think it off the top of my head. One more turn away from Doppelgangster Revolve.
Yeah.
Flame Tongue Totem is actually kind of timely at this point.
It really is.
No Taunt Totem, though. But the nice thing about it is Flame Tongue can kind of act like this Taunt Totem. Nalguidan will be very tempted to swing at it. Or he doesn't have a way to kill it.
Yeah, at least throw a Quarterfinal Elite into it.
Right.
If he wants to maximize damage. And I mean, he is picking up damage, but if he starts a race, that is a race he is going to lose. With Doppelgangster Evolve next turn, followed up by the Bloodlust. That's a ton of damage already. And with Bittertide Hydra, he can turn small things into bigger points of damage. So here it comes.
Go.
No Doomsayers. What Luker's hoping for.
An Urgent Commander.
Oh,
wow.
And a Pyros. That is huge. That is a very good Evolve outcome. He gets, you know, he generates resources with Pyros. He's got Resilient Minion with the Argent Commander and the Caird. And Skulkengeist is actually just pretty good stats at the 6 health mark. You know, it survives Arcanite Reaper. So that means he has to, if he wants to get through that, he's got to trade in Bittertide Hydra. But at this point, I don't think Nalguidan has a way out. Can he race is the question. If he goes Arcanite Reaper this turn and swings face, he deals 13, puts him down to 16. And the next turn he's got 8 damage from hand. His Bittertide Hydra would have to get in damage again. Even his maximum amount of damage over the next 2 turns is only 26.
There's almost as much dust on the board for Luker's side than there is in the entire deck of Pirate Warrior. There's 2 legendaries and epic. They're rare. And one of them is a golden legendary. So
Yep.
This is absurd amounts of value for Evolve. And now Nalguidan has realized he doesn't have much going on, but that is going to do it. Luker has won the board, and you can see why Doppelgangster Evolve has largely become the staple and defining swing turn for Shaman.
Yeah, it's a 2-card combo that the cards don't do that much by themselves, but when you can get it off and it's a powerful one, it does some work, as you can see. And Nalguidan knew he didn't really have a hope. He had no kill over 2 turns, and Luker pumps his fist, takes the win, and puts himself on the board. And again, we have to ask the question, is the Pirate Warrior going to be able to get there?
Well, I mean, it's just the first game for the comeback. Luker has to win 2 more, but it's just scary because Pirate Warrior is one of those decks where even if you have all the right answers, it still can win with the perfect hand.
Yeah.
Pirate Warrior's God Hand is just some of the highest out there in power level in Hearthstone history because of how strong it can get out. And if you need any more confirmation of just how it's been able to withstand the test of time in Standard and in Wild, it's extremely powerful in Wild.
It's been a tier 1 deck for almost an entire year now since Mean Shoes of Gadgetzan came out and introduced patches to the fold. And even before that, some variations of aggressive warriors were out there, just not quite as powerful or as potent.
Man, Luker is on the edge of his seat.
This is stressful.
It is extremely stressful. You put so much work into it.
This is only his second HCT appearance too.
Yeah, I mean, he's either that or he put some real nice hand lotion on and he really likes the scent.
Oh yeah.
Really likes smelling it. Oh, cucumber and watermelon?
Cucumber melon is one of the most popular hand soap / hand lotion scents. Don't ask why I know that.
Why do you know that?
Because I'm married.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, this guy.
That's why I'm married. That's why I'm. I know some things about hand soap and hand lotion.
Yeah, that was a setup, and I felt it. Well played, sir. Well played. So this is a deck that you kind of mentioned is very similar to purple, and I don't think it's a coincidence that purple also kind of Canadian and being able to help prep, but at the same time, it does have its differences. It doesn't have 2 Galactic Calls, it's got 1, and it has double Abyssal Enforcer. A couple other things too. It does have some of the greedier packages like the Facious Shambler and Double Mistress. So there's about 3 or 4 cards difference from purple's list that could make a huge difference. I wasn't sure about that 1 Shadow Bolt copy in purple's list, but it ended up being really clutch a lot of times.
Oh yeah. Definitely put in some work, but Lucre's hand is reasonable. He's got answers to a lot of things. He's got answers to a big weapon with Gluttonous Ooze. He's got answers to smaller board states with Defile, and big stuff with Spellbreaker if he wants to silence a Frothing Berserker to contest it on board. So he is missing Galactic Crawler and Doomsayer. Those are the 2 cards that he'd probably like to see, maybe in place of a few cards in his hand. But overall, I'd say his hand is reasonable for the matchup. And Nalguidan is going to miss a couple of these key early turns. He didn't get the Sauce first mate, and on turn 2 he armors up, and Lucre, his eyes go wide.
Yeah, that's the 2nd game in a row where Pirate Warrior is passing on turn 2, and Nalguidan didn't have a turn 1. However, this game has a lot more Hearthstone to play. Even though Lucre got time to set up, he doesn't have the ideal turn 4. And the Mountain Giant / Twilight Drake is actually very crucial for the Warlock because you need to find a way to actually kill the Pirate Warrior. A lot of times what the Warlock does is win the board but have nothing to counter push, and then Pirate Warrior just has a weapon queued up ready to smack you again. Oh man. And such a subtle difference of 1 card makes, or 1 mana.
Yeah. He still has a clear with Tainted Zealot and Mortal Coil, but
yeah,
Mountain Giant, he would have loved to have seen it come up. But actually, let's just go for Spellbreaker.
Okay. Yeah, there's not many targets you want to silence in Pirate Warrior. Either you're silencing like a big threat like Frothing Berserker or Bloodsail Raider, or you might want it to get past a taunt of the Dread Corsair. And this is one of the big swing turns. Turn 4, finally from the Nalguidan to get a weapon out.
Yeah, we'll be met by Gluttonous Ooze most likely. Arcanite Reaper, of course, the biggest weapon in the deck that you can get with it. And he's seen that there's a dead hand. He could probably have expected Arcanite Reaper to be in the hand with, passing turns 1 and 2 and then playing Frothing Berserker on 3, which is the exact path he took in the last game, except with Nazal's first mate on 1. Now the question is, do you play in the Hellfire with these Dread Corsairs? You play 1 to try and hold on to 1 to guarantee Bloodsail Cultist next turn. All right. He's getting in there. At this point, I don't even know if you trade, because what punishes your board is Hellfire. Trades and patches with the sole purpose of playing around Defile.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is he playing around Hellfire? Or like by doing it that way? But yeah, playing around Defile, very smart. And a lot of times people say you can't play around Defile, but in this case, you absolutely can. You don't play around double Defile, but by playing around 1 Defile, you're able to get in a lot of damage. And it does seem kind of painful, but he's got double upgrade to kind of push the damage here. So he's definitely not hurting. Ooh, man. Bloodsail Raider, powerful draw here for Nalguidan, because now he can activate his Bloodsail Cultist, not have to give up any tempo by using upgrade, and instead push damage with a huge board. And now this mid-range version of Pirate Warrior is starting to get in a ton of damage.
Lucre's got the Gluttonous Ooze tucked away, but that only deals with a very small portion of the board.
Yeah.
It's basically a 12 health swing, because not only are you destroying the 6 damage weapon, you're also gaining 6 armor.
Yeah,
but he's still staring at 10 damage on the board that he doesn't deal with. He can go for Earthring Farseer to bring himself back up to 30 health effectively and try and contest some of this board at least. And I think that's going to be the best play, because whatever survives, he can clean up with Mortal Coil, Defile, Despicable Dreadlord. a lot of ways, and Luker still being really healthy. Nalguidan's going to have a
Ouch.
tough time winning this game unless he picks up another big weapon to start swinging with.
Absolutely, and Nalguidan was threatening 16 damage against 24, and now is pretty much just going to make up all the damage, or 21, excuse me, but now he's only going to make up the damage that he just lost, because Luker gained 9 while destroying his weapon, and how important was it to have that weapon for the upgrades. You're also coming up on a turn where Abyssal Enforcer is a very real threat, but you have to play, you have to play as if that this card doesn't exist. To the face. And Luker's got Defile and Mortal Coil as a guaranteed clear now as well.
He can even play the Twilight Drake after, if he wants. He can also play it before, but it would be the same health outcome. Actually, be less health. So
It's 1 less health.
yeah, better to play it after.
You have 4/4.
4/5.
If you play Twilight Drake first, it'll take 4 hits of it, so it'll
Yeah.
be a 4/3.
3.
Yeah,
That's much worse.
that's
4/5.
much worse. Yeah.
So let's say Nalguidan's next draw is Arcanite Reaper, and he double upgrades. That's 21 damage over the course of 3 turns.
Yeah, even just Fiery War Axe makes it a 5/4, so that's 20 damage over 4 turns.
Yeah. So a weapon pickup is pretty crucial. Weapon plus damage would give him, the best potential.
Oh, the Arcanite Reaper is 28 damage over 4.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. I was thinking of a swing first and upgrading a one, but. Uh-oh.
Looks like we had some tech issues there. Luker very clearly had a board clear and able to get initiative. And man, that's tough. Luker was in a pretty good position from that spot, I'd say.
He was. There was still potential for Nalguidan, like we mentioned, to get a weapon and start swinging, but his hand was looking pretty bad after his board would have been cleared that turn by Luker. Really unfortunate to see that, but sometimes it happens.
Yep, so we're going to take an intermission to figure out what's going on. When we come back, we'll check back in with Luker and Nalguidan. Hope you guys enjoyed that little animation they call Hearth and Home, just showing you, some of the lighter sides of Hearthstone in animation format. And one thing I think we can all learn from there is that you should not be putting Deathwing to kill off those aggressive decks. It is not a viable strategy.
It's quite a lot for my basic brain to process.
Yeah, for sure. I do like that as she was kind of deciding what card, the Innkeeper was like, commit to it. And I think that's advice we can all adhere to. If you pick a line, you better follow through. Although, sometimes strategies call for a little bit of pivot or audibles. That's neither here nor there. We're ready for the next game. We've waited long enough. Let's go into game 4 and find out if this Warlock can actually take down the Pirate Warrior. No Deathwings in the Warlock. Just some good old-fashioned AoE and anti-aggro cards.
Well, that's a reasonable opening hand for Nalguidan. And Luker has Doomsayer, but other than that, no anti-aggro tools just yet. But one thing to point out is, Luker coming off of a game where he probably felt like he was, pretty favored to win. He's got to kind of shake that off because it's he's got to sort of move on to this one and not dwell on the events of the past. So he seems like he's a guy that has been very emotional on camera. Even in the matches that he was winning, very stressed. So I wonder if that's going to affect him moving forward.
Wow, what an opening hand here for Nalguidan. Nizas first mate, as good as it gets. Followed by the threat of Bloodsail Cultist, as well as some other ways to fill out his mana curve. So this is going to play itself really for Nalguidan. Luker, in the meantime, has Defile and Doomsayer. This Doomsayer is going to be dependent on whether or not Nalguidan has Heroic Strike, and there is none. So a little bit of a wrench into the Pirate Warrior's plans. One thing to note, by the way, is as things like patches and the Zos First Mate get picked off, things like Defile get awkward to use. We saw multiple times in the previous game where Defile Would have been great if something could die on the first tick.
Yes.
But the second tick would be like the money shot. So a lot of times it starts getting pretty awkward when you start having 3 and 4 health creatures hit the board.
Yeah. I'm curious if Nalguidan's going to upgrade here. He really doesn't have anything else to do with his hand. And he does have tools to beef up this weapon, but I think his issue with that play is if he does draw a weapon, he's essentially wasting a ton of damage because he'll probably want to get the bigger weapon online much earlier. And maybe he also doesn't want to play right into a Gluttonous Ooze as well, which is a possibility if that would have to come out on turn 3 after he just upgraded.
Yeah.
That could punish him pretty heavily.
I wonder.
Lucre talking to himself, kind of trying to map out is there any reason ever to play Tainted Zealot onto the board? And I think the answer is no, given that your opponent already has a weapon to take off his Divine Shield. It makes your Defile a lot less effective if you only have a 1/1 without the Divine Shield. And even if you did use Defile the next turn, you'd only be killing 1 or 2 minions at most.
And again, Frothing Berserker on 3 seems to be a trend for Nalguidan. Lucre's praying for something. I don't even know. Maybe Faceless Shambler? Looked like he was trying to call a specific card from his deck. And I don't know. He looks so stressed right now. I guess he's maybe hoping for no Spellbreaker in the hand from
Spellbreaker is the real power play here for Nalguidan. It does effectively 6 damage as its Battle Cry. If it said Battle Cry deals 6 damage, it'd be the same thing as silencing it. 6 damage to a minion.
Yes. So they wouldn't buff the Frothing Berserker. So it would read Battle Cry, deal 6 damage to a minion, but reduce your Frothing Berserker's health by 1.
I was just trying to contextualize how powerful it seems.
I can go down the rabbit hole with you, Ken. Don't tempt me.
I appreciate it. You're a good comrade, TJ. Just leave me behind. Go.
It's actually a pretty tough choice. You can go with Bloodsail Raider, coin Bloodsail Cultist, but again, I don't know if he wants to do that because I don't know if he wants to go all in on this Rusty Hook. But he does have Upgrade and Captain Greenskin to follow this up, so I feel like this weapon can get pretty big. It can go all the way up to 4 attack with just what he has in his hand.
Yeah, a lot of it is identifying where are some of the most powerful spike turns for your deck. And with Pirate Warrior, it does tend to be around turn 5. That's when things start to get really nutty. You have Arcanite Reaper to help push a lot of damage, sometimes with a Dread Corsair. You also have the Bittertide Hydra, even Captain Greenskins. So using the coin in this spot makes and kind of smooths it out for the next 2 turns to have really powerful stuff. And you can kind of fit in the pieces of those not as powerful cards later on. So I like going a little bit wider here. It does make it more susceptible to exactly what Lucre has, which is Hellfire and Mortal Coil. But if your opponent doesn't have it, the blowout potential is very high. And with Pirate Warrior, you have to play optimistically because there's so many answers in the Warlock's deck that if you're playing around everything, you will never actually have true development. And then as a result, your opponent gets a lot of free time to develop.
Yeah, he does have a full clear here with the File, if he attacks in Tainted Zealots and then Defiles. But opts to go for Hellfire, Mortal Coil, and trade away his board. Aside from that, both are clear. Maybe Hellfire is just tough to use.
Ooh, man. That Spellbreaker came 1 turn late here. Captain Greenskin still pushing damage.
There is a possibility of Quarterfinal Elite upgrade if you think that you can get more double turns from Quarterfinal Elite damage.
Okay.
Quarterfinal Elite plus upgrade actually has more damage efficiency. It's just less mana efficient because you know that next turn you won't be able to play multiple cards with Captain Greenskin unless you pick up a 1-mana spell. Like if you play Captain Greenskin this turn, maybe you pick up something that changes your idea, but Quarterfinal Elite upgrade is sort of the most efficient way to deal damage, especially a turn before Abyssal Enforcer.
Well, next turn you're not really doing much for efficiency anyways, because you have 6 mana, and how do you pair together 2 cards for 6? You would have to draw Southsea Deckhand or Bloodsail Raider to help like really shape this up, maybe a Dread Corsair. I do kind of like the mana efficiency. The only thing is, Quarterfinal Elite is more susceptible to those 3 damage cards like the Abyssal Enforcer, so that would be the turn before it. Lucre's best answer to this Captain Greenskin is Siphon Soul, but again, We're talking about how he's only answering the threats. He's never actually finding a way to win, and Pirate Warrior can just keep reloading.
He needs that big swing card. He needs Gluttonous Ooze. Galaka Crawler would have been great here because he could develop a few minions on the side to try and contest whatever comes next. I mean, if you look at his hand, his outs are getting pretty slim. Faces Shambler on a big minion, but he doesn't have a big minion. He needs multiple turns in order to set that up. You sort of need to take control of the board really early and then snowball that board lead out of control.
Only a fool rejects the Lich King.
Oh, this works.
Does it though? Because he actually didn't get the second proc of the Defile.
Oh, because that didn't kill anything.
That was a disaster. This is exactly what we're talking about. The fact that Pirate Warrior doesn't a lot of times in the mid stage of the game play minions that are weak to Defile for the first tick. The second tick is usually the money shot.
Yeah, I tunneled on it too, and I think Luker tunneled on the same thing that I did. When you count the spell damage from Defile, you expect the damage to go off because you just assume that there's a minion to die when you did the math in your head.
Right.
But in order for that second Defile to go off, the Tainted Zealot would have needed to die, but then the spell power would have gone away anyway. So I honestly don't know what's going through his head, but
I know what's going through his head. What on earth was I thinking?
Yeah.
And this is a complete disaster for the Warlock. Luker picks up another Siphon Soul, and he can't deal with everything without killing himself in the process.
He tried to be fancy. And now, even if he had a chance of this game, he's tilted off the face of the earth.
There's almost no card I think he can even life tap into to save him. Nalguidan is sitting back in his chair, and that's usually a sign of comfort.
And that's going to be game.
That is game, set, and match. Nalguidan will be joining us for the Los Angeles Championship for the summer season.
And he did it with Pirate Warrior. He got the job done. And Hunter as well. A player that brought Hunter, one of the very few that put it in his lineup. A very unique list as well. Made it all the way. And you got to feel for Luker in that situation. That's a tough way to lose. But he's a young player who, in his second HCT appearance, and I think he's got promising things ahead. But now Nalguidan, yet another Latin American player going to the Summer Championship in LA.
Yep. Once the emotions settle, you can kind of realize that there's a lot of Hearthstone to play in the future. So best of luck to Luke moving forward. But the moment belongs to our third player joining us for the Summer Championship here in Southern California. And, Nalguidan also joins the second player from Latin America. And, Argentina has a couple appearances on the big stage, most notably from PNC, who was able to get to the top 8 for Americas in the past. And hopefully he can join us for a couple of questions, too. We'll try to keep it pretty simple, considering that there's been a lot going on today. I really want to ask him how he feels about qualifying. So, Nalguidan, describe to us how you feel right now.
Hello. Well, obviously, I'm really happy. I played 5 prelims and did pretty bad every time. So I didn't expect to do well this time.
That's awesome. You played in 5 plans. That's a lot to get through. What do you think was the key to your victory?
6 with this. I think the key this time was my Hunter. It went 8-1. The entire tournament. So I would like to thank Asmodai and RDU for sharing it. It really helped me in the tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it performed really well.
Yeah, and I got a question for you. I want to know the history behind the Hunter. Why did you decide to bring Hunter, and what was the thought process?
In my practice the last week, I was playing this lineup with Paladin, Murloc. But I didn't like how it performed. I think it was a bad deck right now. So I was looking for other options, and in the last day I couldn't decide. So it was like a fate goal in the Hunter.
All right, well, glad you took the risk. Congratulations, man. You'll be joining us in the Summer Championship.
Thanks.
All right, so there were 3, and we have 1 more spot remaining, but hats off to Latin America showing up again. And how many times have we seen them push and push very faithfully just to be able to finally be rewarded? And now it's his time.
It is, yeah. And you can see there's a flag missing from that location. That's a USA flag.
It's called Americas for a region. There's no USA rep.
That's right. But I'm really happy to see Nalguidan is a player I've been following for a very long time. I've casted all the Americas playoffs and preliminaries in the past couple years, and I've seen him. He's been on the board once or twice as well, the prediction board. Not this time around, but maybe in the future he'll get more spots if he keeps going. But we'll be seeing a lot more of him as the year goes on.
That's right, and we kind of mentioned there's no USA rep, but there guarantee will be between seeds number 3, Amnesiac and Yay Tears. We're going to find out what's going to happen. Will Young Savage be able to live up to the expectations, or will Yay Tears play the upset? The final quarterfinal will be coming up here for the America Summer Playoffs. Stay tuned.